G'day ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. How have we all been doing? Thought I'd go for a nice late ride just as the sun's setting today. I'll probably go for a bit of a mountain ride at night time. Going a little bit easier because I'm alone, but I just felt like getting out on the bike. How have we all been doing? If you're new around here, don't forget to leave a like, comment and subscribe and all that madness. We do videos roughly every 3 days as of now because of life and such, but we're on the grind, baby. So today I'd like to talk about the good old Big Brother, alright? Some call it the King Rebel, some call it the Rebel 1100, and I'll just stick to the Big Brother, the Rebel. So, yes, that's the topic at hand for today. Not the touring version. I'm going to probably have another video for that one, but we're just talking about the standard Rebel 1100, okay? That's including the DCT as well, alright? Now, the topic at hand is, who is that bike for? And I think the answer is actually quite simple. It's not as complicated as, oh, if you're a guy who likes this, but you want a bit of that, and maybe a bit... No, it's not that fucking complicated, alright? It's pretty simple. Short answer is, if you like the Rebel 500, fucking oath, mate, that bike's for you, okay? And if you don't like the 500, well, you ain't gonna really like the 1100. Unless the only complaint about the 500 is the power. Now, biggest thing out of the way for the Rebel 1100 is when you're riding the 500, your foot touches that bloody engine case thing, alright? The 1100 doesn't have that problem. That's right, I said it. Nothing but luxury, baby. Nothing but comfort. That's what you want. Good stuff in that regard. Secondly, well, you don't have to shift gears as much as the Rebel 1100 because that baby got power and its gears are a bit different than this one, and of course you got more oomph. Now, what's the Rebel 500 have? I think it's about 47 horsepower, about 40 newton meters of torque. Now, look, I don't know your bloody imperial pound-feet of torque. I ain't about that life. I know my newton meters better, alright? But for some reason, I still prefer horsepower over kilowatts, because kilowatts are confusing. But the Rebel 1100 comes in with about 100 newton meters at torque. I think it's about 97, but, you know, we'll say 100 for the sake of it. And I think about 86, 87 horsepower. So it rivals the Indian Chief Dark Horse for horsepower, but it does not for fucking torque, that's for sure. But the bike also weighs like, I don't know, 60 kilos less than that bike, so it works out. But look, this thing's a peppy machine, so you'd probably rival the Indian Scout Bobber when it comes to acceleration. Obviously it'll lose in the top end due to its lack of horsepower compared, but of course, you know, different bikes, different strokes, different folks, okay? First up, now the Rebel 1100's comfort level. Now, if you know much about the 500, you'll know this about the 1100 and the 300, is that the Rebels, they're cruisers, but they're not great cruisers. They're more, think of it more of a naked bike, alright? With a cruiser aesthetic. Same goes for the 1100. Now, they're not great cruisers, okay? And by that I mean, they have a sportier engine, so they really like to be revved as opposed to just cruising in low gears. Now look, they can do it. I'm cruising in 6th gear at the moment and it's only 70 kilometers an hour. It's not miles, alright? This is a 500. We aren't doing that in this bike. So, it's good for like mid to upper range is where the engine likes to be. There's no tacho on the 500, but the 1100 does have a tacho, which I'm sure everybody is happy with. I don't know why they thought the tachometer would be too much work to put in a 500. But I suppose, mate, I haven't really had an urge to look down because it doesn't have one, so I just use my ears. But the Rebel 1100, you're not going to be worried about gear shifting all the time as much, and also accelerations and highway speeds for those that are concerned. Well, the Rebel 1100's got that covered. Now, as I was saying, for cruising reasons, now, this bike is a great commuter bike, alright? You hear me? Great commuter bike. It is not a great touring bike, and I don't even think the touring model would be the same. Now look, this bike here has the cowl. You can get the same cowl for the 1100. It does not stop a shitload of wind, but by golly, I'm glad it's here to begin with because it does stop a lot of it. But after a full day of riding, you will feel it in your chest, and you will definitely feel it in your damn hip flexors, boy or girl. So your legs will be sore for a full day of riding these kind of bikes. Same goes for the 1100, alright? They're not comfortable for and I'm talking for like maybe anything over like 2 hours, you'll start to feel it. So their seats, you can upgrade the seats, which is usually the first model a lot of people do to the Rebels. In fact, I'm still fucking wanting to do it. In fact, I was kind of wanting to do the forward controls as well, but because after that long ride, it made me realise how beneficial they'd be. But, seat, it's got to go. Same deal. Rebel 500, Rebel 300, fucking Rebel 1100. Seat, hits it off. Fuck it off. They hit it. But, and the forward controls. Now look, with your Rebel 1100, the pegs are a little bit different than these ones. They're not quite the same level of in, so you're not as cramped, but they're still not perfect for long day stints, but you can get forward controls as a modification, okay? They do come with heated grips though, which, I don't know, if you're riding in cold weather, man, fucking heated grips are a gift from God. Especially now, Australia winter, it might get down to 1 in Melbourne, alright? It very rarely gets any lower than, 1 degree, and I don't think I've ever seen it any lower than that myself. But heated grips, always a plus, and of course, if you're a big fan, you've got cruise control. So cruise control is just one of those things that everybody seems to really love, and there's no real downside to having it, okay? As for the automatic one, the DCT model, now I've heard some things where the gear change is a bit sluggish, and it doesn't quite pick which gear you'd sort of be in if you were doing it yourself. I think you can click buttons to manually shift, but it's not the same as having the shifter on your foot. So unless you have a reason, like you're injured or you have a disability, I don't really see a reason as to why you would buy the DCT model, okay? And it's always confused me as to why someone would buy the DCT model if they're fit and healthy. Well, I mean, look, if you've been riding for fucking 60 years and you're over shifting, I suppose I can understand it, but like, shifting is half the point of riding. Oh, the feds, boys, don't speed. Although my bike is quite loud. Shh, don't tell anybody. But yes, so some of the downsides to the Rebel 1100, besides the seat and the DCT, you still got that kind of boring and uncharacteristic exhaust. Now look, I like my exhaust, but it's no like MT-07 for a twin parallel, or even the Aprilia RS660, alright? So it's quite a boring exhaust note, not quite as plain. For some reason, the Kawasaki they sound like lawnmowers, no matter what you do to them, but so its exhaust note's a bit plain, a bit bland, a little lacking in character. But if you like the aesthetics of a Rebel 500, just imagine that exact bike with a fatter rear, a thicker guard, or fender as you'd say in America, less space in the engine bay because that boy thick. You're carrying was it a 1087 or 1086cc power plant, aka the Africa Twin. Good shit, baby. Alright, and the front tyre, right? Now, this is a big difference. Now, the Rebel 500, 300 have the same size front and rear tyre. So they're very good beginner bikes, but they lack a bit of depth when it comes to turning. Now, I didn't really notice it until I started riding other bikes, but the Rebel 1100 has a skinnier front tyre than the rear, so it would feel a little snappier, which is never a bad thing. Oh, is that a camera? Fucking portable cameras. Anyway, so the Rebel 1100, in my humble opinion, is that bike for someone who likes to commute around, the town, or just go on a quick squiz around the mountains. Because the thing about the Rebels, right, if you like your cruiser aesthetics, but you don't want to have a cruiser land barge, that's why you buy a Rebel. They handle fantastically for a cruiser. It ain't no MT-09 or sports bike, but if you've ridden a fucking Harley or any traditional cruiser, you will know a land barge like to go straight and they scrape themselves when you go sideways. The Rebels, however, they got a bit of lean, baby. Now, I obviously leaned my one a bit too much when I low-sided it, but the point being, I can get to the point of low-siding it as opposed to just... So there's always that to worry about with big boys versus the Rebel. Now, the Rebel, you still will scrape pegs, alright? You don't need to try too hard to scrape a peg, but you can get down and have a good time whilst doing it. Therefore, the Rebel's a great little twisty roads boy, but as a long distance commuter bike, unless you fit forwards onto it, man, and a very lush seat, I would say maybe don't go for the Rebel 1100. But look, man, they're beautiful looking bikes. In fact, I'm so close to considering upgrading to an 1100 just because I like how the Rebel looks. I prefer the Indian Chief as a cruiser, but the Rebel is just, like I said, it's a nimble cruiser I can enjoy riding and enjoy the look of, where the Indian Chief is a bike I'll enjoy looking at and enjoy going straight on, but maybe not so much doing anything else on. There's the Rebel 1100. It has all the benefits of my lovely Rebel 500, but it's got more oomph. Also, they have some nice colours. So that's pretty much what you'd be looking for with that 1100. Like I said, it's a good commuter bike if you're going to go around. If you live in the city, you can get away with a 500 or an 1100, whichever one floats your goat, honestly. They handle really well. They look fantastic. They lean over very well. They got shit seats. And their mid controls are great for throwing it around, so you get good handling with them. But obviously, for long distance riding, they don't go so hot. But let's be honest, you get used to it. There's more uncomfortable bikes. Like an Indian Scout Bobber hurts your back from riding it too long. So, and that bitch got forward controls. It's just too hunched over. Whereas the Rebels are very upright, standard positions, which is kind of, you know, it's a good position to be in. But they're very safe bikes to choose if you're not quite sure what you're after. If you're in a state where you can buy a Rebel 1100 as a first bike, I don't really see yourself thrashing it too hard and making an ass out of yourself and crashing. Now, I know it's possible to pop a power wheelie on them, but I'm pretty sure they have power mode, so you can just put it in rain mode and bam, you've got a Rebel, I don't know, 750, I suppose. So, like, they're not levels of power. And of course, you can de-restrict them to have a bit more speed, but they're not speed demons as all twin parallels tend to be. Like, I think the Aprilia is probably like one of the fastest twin parallels you can sort of buy on the market with its 100 horsepower and I think it's about 250 top speed. But you know, that's just it. That's the joys of the Rebel. Okay, wonderful bikes, wonderful looking bikes. In terms of performance stuff, like I said, they're good. They accelerate quickly. They don't, you know, lag behind. They can lean over. Calm down, Chief. And they're just all around pleasant bikes to ride, man. So like I say, if you haven't ridden one, give it a go. If you like cruisers and you don't want a fucking 280 kilogram land barge that can go straight and barely lean over, or you know, you can go with a smaller one like I have and just enjoy the tiny one. Now, if you haven't ridden a bike before and you're scared of the speed that the bikes can put out, the 500 will do you fine. But honestly, the 1100 and 500, it's the only difference besides, you know, the engine and the power. There's not much else. It's literally just, hey, you like the Rebel 500? How about we just give you more of that, baby? So, yeah, who's the Rebel 1100 for? Well, let me just tell you. It's a bike for everybody. If you like your cruisers, it's great. If you like your standard position bikes, it's great. Like a bit of handling, it's great. If you like sports bikes, well, then maybe not. But they've got a good amount of customizability, I don't know, customization, all right? You can do things to them. You can mod them. The exhaust options are plentiful. You can do a lot of handlebars. There's actually quite a lot of custom bikes on the market as we speak. Oh, by that I mean, like, there's a few places that have done some pretty good custom jobs. Yeah, they're just, like, if you like the 500 and what it's potentially offering you and you think it might not be enough oomph for you, save up and buy a fucking 1100, dude. They are phenomenal bikes for what you're getting. They're not super expensive. They're Hondas, which means they are reliable as fuck. The Africa Twin is a tried and tested engine, man, which is, it's fucking indestructible is what it is. And they're nice, they're quick, they're agile, and they don't fucking weigh a ton. So even if you do have an accident and you drop them, you'll be able to pick up the fucking thing, alright? Come on, get in gear. So, those are just my 2 cents on the matter. Like I said, if you like your Rebel 500s, go for a fucking Rebel 1100, man. You're not going to regret it. And if you buy 1100 over the 500, well, like I said, if you're scared of the power, just put the power down and make it a rain mode thing. Because, like, you can do that. So why wouldn't you? Well, those are my 2 thoughts on the matter, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to go off and enjoy my mountainous ride now. It'll get a bit too dark if I keep going with this. So, take it easy, keep it cheesy, and as always, peace!